perfect fit, given he's kind of a hybrid, like receiver and tight end?
I think at the tight end position, you're looking for anytime they're kind of rare, but anytime you can get like a complete tight end, it's what I used to call when I coached tight ends. You know, a guy who can kind of play on all downs, first, second, third, and win when you target him on third down, and then also be effective in the run game. So we're excited to have him.
How do you assess his blocking? I've heard mixed reviews on that.
Well, he's a guy. He's got a history of blocking. He understands angles. He's not a 260-pound man. And generally those guys don't have a lot of pass production. So, when you're in the 240 range or whatever he's weighing right now, a lot like a lot of guys I've worked with in the past. You've got to be great with your technique. You've got to be great with your angles, your hat placement, your hand fits, all those sort of things. And he knows angles. He understands, how to get the job done. Because oftentimes you're overmatched unless you're Mercedes Lewis or something. Physically, they're going to be longer, bigger, stronger most times. The guys that you're blocking.
Can do as a receiver, just how do you envision how that can open up, or not open up, but how that can affect the offense and just play off of everybody in your skill group?
Well, he's another piece that's a talented player on the field that the defense has to account for, and if they don't account for him, then he can make you pay. So I mean, he's a guy who's caught over 60 balls a couple times in his career and in his short career, really. So. He's proven already that he's a threat. You get a proven player, you give up a pick or two, but you get a guy that's established in this league and you know what he can do. So it's a good ad for us.
Wes, what does the acquisition of Hockenson do for strong hands Mundt? Will he still have the same role? Would you say?
Well, yeah, Johnny's always going to have a role. He's got value. In the things that we ask him to do. He's a physical player. He can run better than most people think. I used to say in L.A., I'm telling you, just throw him a go ball one time, on a corner. They'll never expect it. They just play it and just throw it over their head. But Sean didn't take my advice on that one. But Johnny's a valuable guy. He's a great team guy, and also has value on teams as well. So he does a lot of good things for us, a lot of dirty work for us as well. So he'll continue to have a role.
What did you think of his first touchdown the other day?
The spike, left something to be desired, but it was forceful. That's for sure. I was just happy for him, to be in the league. It's just really cool to see a guy. A lot of guys didn't realize that was your first touchdown. They were asking if he went and got that ball. I don't know if anyone retrieved it for him, but it's kind of a good keepsake to have. After kind of paying his dues for a long time, to get rewarded and get a touchdown was really cool.
Yesterday Kevin was talking about this trade, and I'll just read it because I don't want to screw it up. But he was talking about it's good to have tight ends that have multiple roles off of plays that start out looking the same but are different. I was wondering if you just kind of expand on that and how that sort of is incorporated into tight ends in the scheme.
Well, the good thing with tight ends, a lot of times if you're in 2-by-2, and the tight end is away from the passing strength, so they're getting matchups that if you have a guy like Hockenson, that are favorable a lot of times. If they're playing a shell zone, he's playing against a Sam linebacker. He's running routes against that guy, and you can kind of marry a lot of the cuts that guy has to defend, or even if they're dropping down to single high, it's a safety player who, may be athletic, but just the size of these guys, these guys that are 6'5" and they have length and they can run through contact, is just a difficult cover for a smaller player. So, and then you start marrying those cuts where he's cutting out, he's cutting in, you think he's going to cut and he goes vertical on you. So, and then in addition to marrying those same formations, looks to, the run looks that we have, and the keepers and the play action pass. Now he's blocking. A good tight end just adds a lot of value to the group.
And it gives you, I guess, a chance to get him some favorable matchups too.
Absolutely.
Thinking about Munt's first touchdown, do you need multiple different players to score on the red zone plays for him to work? Like otherwise, the teams would just focus on one or two players who always score on this.
Really, we look. Yeah, we want to feature guys at times, but the more condensed the field gets, I mean, you're looking for where the holes are in the defense and who they're not covering, and a lot of teams have. Combination type coverage, or they take the post safety there because he doesn't have vertical grass to cover if it's a single high man coverage, and then they put him over to JJ, or they put him over to the passing strength, and he's kind of this, if there's three guys over there, he's this fourth guy who's kind of hanging in there for anything coming, and maybe that single receiver is the guy that gets activated there, or in that case we ran a play action pass, and we got a guy to have poor eyes when the tight end blocked, and he was able to slip out, and that's why he's wide open. So every week's a little different, but just trying to scheme it to find those holes, and whoever it may be, we feel confident. Obviously, we felt confident with Johnny to execute that play, or else we wouldn't have had it in.
Stands out to you when you look at Washington's defense.
Really, what stands out, is where they've put a lot of their investment at the front. Even without Chase Young, but we'll see if Chase is participating in this game or not. But they've got 4 first-round picks across the board. I was actually in Washington when they took Jonathan Allen and took Deron Payne, and I've seen those guys up close. And they've really progressed as players since I was there. They've really kind of improved every year. So it's a physical front. It's a physical group. They've made the investment there, and it's paying off for them. I think they're first in the league in QB hits, I think. Sacks are sacks, but they're getting pressure and they're getting hits, whether the QB's getting the ball out or not. So it's going to be a real challenge for us.
You obviously matched up against Zadarius in practice a lot, but I'm curious how much stress a guy like that puts on protection with his versatility.
A ton of stress. Their ability to be able to move him around to to match him up to whichever player, and set the front in a way where he can get a one-on-one on the center, on the guard, or on the tackle. He can rush from all positions. He's really strong and athletic. He's just a monster. He's just one of those problem players, and NFC Defensive Player of the Month is really more impressive, I think, than sometimes people realize. I think this is the 16th time that a Vikings player has ever received that honor, and I think he's the 10th player to ever do it. Some guys had it multiple times, but it's really impressive, and he's a great player, but he works at it, and he earned it, certainly.
Why don't all defenses do that? I know that's it's not really a rhetorical question, but kind of. But take the best pass rusher or one of the best pass rushers you have and put them on what might be the weakest pass blocker. Does it take a certain type of skills and personnel across the board to pull that off, or why wouldn't that happen more often than it does?
Yeah, I think some of it's a skill set. Some guys aren't as comfortable. They want to be on that edge. Rushing from the outside and kind of having that edge. Some guys are really natural, just going in and working in tighter spaces with a guard, against a guard or a center. But and then I think some of it's scheme. Some teams you play, this guy's going to be on the left and this guy's going to be on the right. This team is very right-left oriented as far as Jonathan Allen, even the defensive tackles. Jonathan Allen's on the left, Deron Payne's on the right. But so some of it's scheme and some of it I think is individual player.
If you were, game planning against a team that does move somebody around and you saw that their edge is in the middle, would you think that whoever's taking the spot on the edge would be vulnerable, or would you assume, in this case, I assume they feel comfortable with whoever the Vikings are putting on the edge, that he could hold that edge when their normal edge is inside?
I think it goes back and forth because sometimes you're in rush packages where you've got, more rushers on the field. So that edge guy now is, Patrick Jones or DJ Wanham or something, who's a legitimate player, rusher. And then sometimes you have a tackle that struggles against. It's a defensive tackle, but he's just a big man coming from outside in with some steam, as opposed to being in the middle. And if he's got a good get off, he can really collapse the pocket from the outside, even though maybe he's not, as technical of a rusher.